extraordinary developments in Afghanistan. The US says it's sending some 3,000 troops to help evacuate embassy staff in Kabul. The decision comes with the beleaguered Afghan government struggling to turn the tide against a relentless Taliban offensive. The UK is also sending soldiers to help British nationals leave the country. The Taliban are on the march across Afghanistan and appear to have taken control of Herat, the country's third largest city. That comes hot on the heels of militants overrunning the strategic town of Ghazni, just 150 kilometres south from the capital, Kabul. Heavy fighting is also taking place in Kandahar, the country's second biggest city. The US believes the Afghan capital itself could come under attack by the Taliban within weeks and is now asking its citizens to leave the country immediately.
The Taliban triumphant in Ghazni, just one of a string of provincial capitals to fall to the militants. They've met barely any resistance. It seems that without backing from US and other international troops, Afghan government forces are reluctant to make a stand.
Our security forces are still fighting the opposition in some areas, but most of Ghazni province is under the total control of the Taliban enemy.
Ghazni lies on a vital highway connecting the major cities of Mazar-e-Sharif in the north and Kandahar in the south, both already under heavy attack by the Taliban. And just a short distance from Ghazni is the capital Kabul itself.
We remain optimistic, but we were always concerned that if the central and local governments did not pay special attention to Ghazni and it fell, we would see a huge security challenge threatening Kabul.
Now Ghazni has fallen, giving the militants a route straight to Kabul. And wherever they take ground, they usually find stockpiles of weapons and vehicles left behind by fleeing government troops. This video appears to show the Taliban releasing army soldiers who surrendered further north in Kunduz. The militants claim the troops then joined their ranks, but neither the images nor the information can be verified. There is no doubt, however, that the militants are rapidly gaining ground, and they may yet prove unstoppable.
Well, let's talk to Bradley Bowman. He's with the Centre on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. He joins us from Washington. Welcome to the program. A string of provincial capitals are being captured. Employees from the US Embassy in Kabul have now been told to leave. Are you surprised at the sheer speed at which this is now unfolding?
Thanks for the opportunity to join you, and thanks for the question. It's certainly a devastating catastrophe that we are witnessing unfold in Afghanistan. Many of us had warned the Biden administration against implementing a timeline-based conditions ignoring withdrawal based on this idea of endless wars that we've heard so many pundits and politicians push for so long. This is what you get when you do a conditions ignoring withdrawal. We've seen 12 provincial capitals fall in 7 days. More than 1/3 of Afghanistan's provincial capitals have fallen within a week. More vulnerable than ever. Our national security, in my view, should be based on facts on the ground, and our enemies don't stop fighting just because we withdraw. And what we're seeing right now is a vivid and sad example of this. The victims in the short term are going to be Afghans, particularly Afghan women and girls. We're all going to be victims in the long run because we know that problems in Afghanistan don't stay there.
As the regional cities started to fall, you were quoted earlier this week as saying the situation in Afghanistan was a predictable disaster. What do you now predict is going to happen in Kabul?
You know, predictions are dangerous in Afghanistan, but, I would have, if you'd asked me months ago, I warned the Biden administration not to proceed with after the April 14th announcement. They've done so anyways. I would have predicted that you would have seen significant Taliban gains in the south and the west based on traditional strengths there. The big surprise has been the gains in the north. The large majority of the provincial capitals that have fallen have been in the north. And the reason why that's significant for your viewers is that's the traditional political strength, strong points, if you will, of the Kabul government. Badakhshan and other areas like that are either controlled or contested by the Taliban. So clearly the Taliban is trying to isolate the Kabul government and overthrow it. And they've been pursuing this rural strategy that frankly, the Department of Defense kind of ignored for too long. And they've now surrounded the cities and they're going into action. Meanwhile, Biden is ignoring this and withdrawing. Really, we should be honest, it's the U.S.-led NATO withdrawal that has catalyzed what we're seeing now. And it's absolutely sad and tragic.
And with that said, US President Joe Biden has doubled down on his decision, saying Afghans need to, quote, fight for their nation. They've received training from American and German troops, equipment too, over the course of 20 years. What more could have been done to protect them?
We had 3,500 troops in Afghanistan, give or take, in April. 3,500 American troops, with roughly double that number of NATO troops. For 3,500 troops, we were preventing another 9/11 attack. We were preserving the gains that Afghan women and girls have made, and we were preventing massive new refugee flows that were going to destabilize nuclear armed Pakistan. We had 26,000 American troops on Capitol Hill after January 6th. 3,500 troops was not an unreasonable investment. Despite that, Biden doubled down on his mistake in the Obama administration from 2011 in Iraq. They conducted a conditions ignoring withdrawal there, and then we got ISIS and had to go back in 2014. He's repeating that exact same mistake now in Afghanistan, and I fear we're all going to pay a price.
Bradley Bowman, Senior Director of the Centre on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, the relentless advance of the Taliban has forced thousands of Afghans to flee. Many have sought safety in the capital, Kabul, while others are hoping to leave the country entirely.
They fled the Taliban's brutal advance. Since May, more than 220,000 Afghans have been forced to abandon their homes and seek shelter in other parts of the country. Others are desperate to get out. At the border with Pakistan, Afghans are waiting for a crossing to reopen. It's just one of many barriers they face.
At this point, we're primarily worried that Afghans are actually going to get stuck in Afghanistan if Taliban controls border crossings, for example, if neighboring countries are effectively shutting their borders, like, for example, Turkey did towards Iran. And of course, also the EU has really strengthened their fortress, as we've always already called it, Fortress Europe, and they really made sure that they work with third partners who then, in order, try to block their borders, which really then keeps people, unfortunately, in an area they're not safe in.
The situation in Afghanistan has prompted some to raise the spectre of the summer of 2015, when Germany took in 1 million people seeking refuge, mostly from war-torn Syria. But a repeat of those events is unlikely. After pressure from EU ambassadors in Afghanistan, Germany has now suspended deportations of rejected Afghan asylum seekers, but only temporarily. Germany and Europe's new focus lies in keeping those fleeing from getting to Europe by supporting third-party countries who will host them. That position is unlikely to change, as Olaf Scholz, Chancellor candidate for the Social Democrats, told us.
Many countries aren't governed the same way we would expect in Germany, but they do offer protection. That's why there need to be prospects for integration in those countries in Africa, Asia and South America, and we need to share responsibility in that.
One group that the German government has vowed to help are Afghans who worked with German troops stationed in the country and who now face acute danger. But despite promises, the process of getting them to safety has been slow. And as the Taliban capture more and more territory, many of them may not get out before it's too late.